In the heart of the bustling city, there is an unsettling quiet in the middle of the storm. A billionaire, handcuffed, stares not at the flashing cameras or the mass of people outside, but at the face of a small child. The child's gaze, wide and innocent, remains locked on him. It's the look of pure confusion, laced with the kind of sorrow only a child can understand. "Why didn't you save her?" the child asks, voice trembling yet demanding. And in that one sentence, the gravity of the situation hits like a tidal wave. The billionaire is a man who has spent years building empires, winning battles and conquering his enemies, but none of that power seems to matter in this moment. His world is crashing down, and all he can do is stare back at the child. His heart aches, not for the millions he's about to lose, not for the empire crumbling beneath him, but for the little soul before him, who has become the symbol of everything he couldn't protect. "I tried," he whispers, but the words fall hollow in the air. There is no redemption here, no victory to be had. The man who once had everything now has nothing, and the child, a symbol of innocence, is the one who must bear the weight of this moment. The cameras flash, the voices shout questions, but none of it matters. This is the true face of defeat, not the chains on his wrists, but the child he couldn't save. In the background, a voice, cold and impartial, echoes through the chaos. He built an empire, but he couldn't save her. The billion-dollar empire crumbles, and in its place is nothing but regret. The tears that the billionaire cannot shed for himself begin to collect in the child's eyes. They stand in the center of a storm they don't understand, a storm caused by the ambition of the man before them. In that moment, a deep, unspoken question hangs in the air. Who is the real victim here? The child's innocent face contrasts sharply with the man's broken soul. To the world, he's a fallen titan, the mighty billionaire who conquered industries and shaped markets. But here, in the cold light of his own failure, he is nothing but a man who couldn't save the one person he needed to. The child's question had cut through the layers of power, wealth, and pride that he had built his identity on. It wasn't just a question about a lost life. It was about everything he had sacrificed to get to the top. The empire, the wealth, the fame, none of it could bring back what he had lost. "I tried," the billionaire whispers again, but the words feel like nails in the coffin of his past. His empire is no longer his. The boardrooms, the stock tickers, the headlines, gone. He had been so consumed by his drive to succeed that he forgot the one thing that truly mattered. The child looks at him again, a single tear now falling down their cheek. In this silence, the weight of years of mistakes comes crashing down on the billionaire. The world continues to turn, but for this man, for this child, there is no going back. And just as the thought of his losses consumes him, a chilling voice breaks through. He built an empire, but he couldn't save her. The finality of it, the cold, calculated tone, leaves him with nothing but the remnants of what he used to be. The curtain is drawn, and what lies behind is a man alone, with no empire, no glory, and no redemption. The silence stretches on thick and suffocating, between the billionaire and the child. Outside, the city pulses with life, oblivious to the drama unfolding within these four walls. The child's gaze remains unwavering, the weight of their unspoken thoughts heavy in the air. The billionaire can feel the weight of that gaze, but he has no answers. What is left to say? What could possibly make this right? He is a man who spent his entire life building, accumulating, conquering. And yet, in the end, it all amounts to nothing. The empire, the fortune, the power, none of it could change the fundamental truth. He had failed when it mattered most. "I should have been there," he says softly, his voice barely above a whisper. The words seem to echo in the empty room. The guilt is suffocating, and there is no escape. But the child, wise beyond their years, doesn't speak a word. They don't need to. Their silence is louder than anything that could be said. It's a silence that cuts to the core of the billionaire's being, exposing him for who he truly is. A failure. A man whose obsession with power had taken him down a path from which there was no return. "I didn't save her," he admits, and the child's gaze never wavers. It is in that moment that the billionaire realizes there is no going back. No amount of money, no amount of success can undo the one thing he can never change: his own inability to protect the one thing that truly matters. The door to the interrogation room creaks open, and the sound is like the toll of a bell, signaling the end of an era. The world outside doesn't stop. Cars honk, the hustle of the city continues, but in here, everything is frozen. The billionaire's empire, once built on ambition and endless drive, has crumbled in a matter of hours. He is no longer the man he once was. The child's eyes soften, not out of pity, but something more profound, a deep understanding of the situation. There's a pause, the weight of the moment thickening in the air. Then the child speaks. "You can still fix this." It's a simple statement, but it cuts deep. The billionaire looks up, their words echoing in his mind. Can he fix this? Can anything be salvaged? He stares at the child, seeing them in a new light, not as someone to protect, but as the very embodiment of everything he could never preserve. In that fleeting moment, he realizes that the empire he built is insignificant. All the power, all the control, none of it could bring back what he lost. He will never get the chance to fix it. "I tried," he says, his voice hollow, betraying his desperation. But deep down, he knows. It's too late for redemption. The words feel empty now. The child's gaze remains unwavering. There is no anger, no judgment, just quiet understanding. They were never looking for answers from him, just the truth. The billionaire finally stands, the sound of his feet dragging against the cold floor as he rises to his feet. It's the motion of a man who has been broken, yet still tries to stand tall. There is no grand gesture, no heroic final act. His empire is gone, and what remains is just a man in the ruins of his own making. He steps toward the door, his movements slow and deliberate. The child doesn't speak, but their eyes follow him with quiet intensity. This is the final step, the point of no return. The billionaire opens the door and steps into the hallway. The city sounds flood in, a reminder of everything he once ruled and everything he has lost. He pauses at the threshold, looking back once more. "I couldn't save her," he says, and the child's eyes never leave his. For the first time in a long while, he feels small, not in stature, but in spirit. The world outside is indifferent to his failure, but the child, who was the one he failed, stands silently as a reminder of what he could never protect. And as he walks away, the world moves on, unchanged, but for him, nothing will ever be the same. Long before the skyscrapers and stock tickers, before boardroom battles and headlines, there was a child watching from the sidelines. A young girl no older than 8, sitting silently in a cramped living room while her mother struggled with unpaid bills and mounting pressure. The television flickered in the background, but the girl's attention was fixed on her mother's weary face, etched with exhaustion and worry. "I promise," she thought to herself, "I will never be like this." That promise was born from pain and fear, a silent vow made in a moment of helplessness. The girl grew watching the fragility of survival, the desperate attempts to hold things together. Her small hands clenched into fists, her eyes reflected a fierce determination. She knew the world would test her, break her if she let it, but she vowed to fight back with everything she had. Love, warmth, and security were distant dreams, replaced by the raw fire of survival. This was the seed of her ambition, not for wealth or fame, but to never feel powerless again. And as the years passed, that seed grew into something relentless. She wasn't just a child watching, she was a future CEO in the making, carrying every scar, every hurt into the boardrooms she would one day command. She was forged in the crucible of hardship, ready to rewrite her destiny. Years later, the same girl had become a young woman, standing at the threshold of a corporate boardroom. But this was not a triumphant moment. It was one of rejection. The polished wood and gleaming glass of the room stood in stark contrast to the fire burning inside her. She had fought tooth and nail for this seat, the seat that symbolized everything she had ever wanted: respect, power, control. Yet the door closed in her face. The men at the table glanced at her dismissively, their skepticism palpable. She was an outsider, unwelcome and underestimated. But she did not flinch. In that moment of dismissal, her resolve hardened. She turned away not with tears but with quiet fury. The rejection was not the end. It was the spark that ignited her fiercest ambitions. She vowed to break every barrier, to build an empire so vast that no door would ever close to her again. And as she walked away from that room, she carried not shame but the steely armor of determination, an armor forged by every no she had ever heard. This was the crucible where power was born from pain, where dreams began to transform into ruthless reality. Across town, a young boy sits alone on a bench in a small convenience store, clutching a worn toy in his hands. His mother stands outside, pleading with the store manager for a job, her voice edged with desperation and hope. The boy's eyes are heavy with loneliness and an early understanding of struggle. He watches the world move past him, the laughter of other children, the ease of those born into comfort. And he makes a silent vow, just like the girl before him: I will never live like this. This vow carved itself deep into his heart, shaping every choice he would make from this moment on. The child who once clutched a toy would become a man who fought for control, who built walls around his heart to protect himself from the pain of scarcity and loss. But beneath the tough exterior was the same fragile hope, the same desire for stability and love that every child craves. The path ahead would be long, filled with sacrifices and hard decisions, but the boy's resolve was unshakable. In the quiet corners of a small store, the seeds of ambition were sown. The boy, now a young man, steps into the world of business with the same fierce determination that had defined his childhood. Every sleepless night, every missed birthday, was a brick in the fortress he was building around himself. Friends drifted away, lovers left behind, but he pressed on, driven by a fire that refused to die. His victories tasted bittersweet. They brought power but also loneliness, and a gnawing emptiness that no amount of success could fill. The boy who once yearned for security had found it in the most unexpected places, but at a cost. The price of ambition was steep, and he was paying it in full. Each deal, each win, pushed him further from the boy he used to be, and closer to a man consumed by the empire he was building. The battle was no longer with others but with himself. The war was for his soul. Would he become the man he promised to be, or would he lose himself along the way? The young woman who once stood outside the boardroom, and the young man who sat alone after long nights, finally meet in a moment that feels both inevitable and electric. They carry scars from different battles, but the same hunger for power and connection. Together, they forge ahead, each a mirror for the other's ambitions and fears. The past shadows them, but their combined strength offers a chance to rewrite their stories. Love was once seen as a distraction, a weakness to be cast aside. But in each other, they begin to discover something unexpected, a force more powerful than ambition alone. Theirs is a story not just of empire building, but of healing, risk, and the hope that even the most broken can become whole. In their union, the promise is clear. This time they will not lose what truly matters. The young woman's empire begins to take shape, but it demands more than just her ambition. It demands everything she has. Sleepless nights blend into early mornings as she pores over contracts and strategies. The glow of her laptop is the only light in her apartment, a stark contrast to the bright, bustling city outside. Success feels tantalizingly close, yet every achievement feels incomplete. She wins deals but loses friends. Celebrations are few, and when they come, they taste hollow. She sacrifices birthdays and holidays, sending only brief messages to loved ones she no longer sees. Her reflection in the window reveals a face hardened by relentless pursuit, eyes sharper yet lonelier. Every victory in business comes with an invisible toll, a growing distance from the person she once was. Power has become both her weapon and her prison. She wonders if the empire she's building is worth the cost. But stopping isn't an option. The momentum she's created pulls her forward, and failure is no longer a choice. With every step up, the price rises, and the sacrifice deepens. In the late hours, the young man sits alone in his penthouse office, the city lights flickering below like distant stars. Phone calls buzz relentlessly, demands mounting from every direction. His victories feel less like triumphs and more like burdens. The more he gains, the more he loses. He watches photos on his desk of family gatherings he's missed, birthdays uncelebrated, and friends who have drifted away. His relationships have become collateral damage, casualties of the war for power. Yet the drive to push forward consumes him. Every deal closed is a step further from who he once was, and closer to the man he fears becoming. He knows this path is lonely, but turning back is impossible. The price of ambition is steep, and he pays it nightly, trading joy for dominance. Exhausted, he closes his eyes briefly, a silent question burning in his heart. Is this success, or just survival? A phone rings in the dead of night. The young woman answers, her voice tired but resolute. It's a crisis at work, a major client pulling out, threatening the empire she's spent years building. Her heart pounds, but there is no room for panic. She takes a deep breath and strategizes, rallying her team with calm authority. Success is not guaranteed, and the stakes are higher than ever. Yet she refuses to show weakness. Behind closed doors, sacrifices become personal. A missed dinner with family, a forgotten anniversary. She locks away the guilt and presses forward. The walls around her close in, but she knows this fight is necessary. Power demands sacrifice, and she is prepared to pay it, whatever the cost. In this moment, her world narrows to the crisis at hand, and the empire she refuses to let fall apart. At a lavish company gala, surrounded by smiling faces and champagne toasts, the young man feels utterly alone. His successes are celebrated publicly, but privately, the celebrations ring hollow. The laughter around him is distant, a reminder of the isolation his ambition has wrought. He watches couples embrace, families toast, and wonders what he's truly sacrificed. His phone buzzes constantly. Urgent texts, calls demanding his attention. He smiles politely, but inside, the emptiness gnaws at him. This glittering facade masks the truth. The cost of power is a loneliness that no crowd can fill. The empire he built towers high, but it stands on the fragile foundation of lost connections and forsaken moments. The price of the climb is paid in solitude, and he feels its weight with every toast. Despite the cost, the young woman and man continue to climb, driven by a force they can no longer deny. Their victories pile up, but so do the sacrifices, friends lost, moments missed, and an ever-growing distance from the lives they once imagined. Yet in the quiet moments, away from the spotlight and deal-making, a shared understanding emerges. They are both prisoners of their ambition and architects of their destiny. The empire rises, but so does the toll. It is a journey marked by triumph and sacrifice, a delicate balance of power and loss. And as the city lights flicker beneath them, they realize that success is not just about what they gain, but what they're willing to lose, and whether the price will ever be worth it. The foundation of everything they had built begins to crack, unnoticed at first, a whisper beneath the roar of success. Then, the truth breaks through like a tidal wave. The co-founder, the trusted partner, is revealed to be a sibling. The shock reverberates through the company, and the lives intertwined with it. For years they had fought side by side, sharing victories and setbacks, unaware that the blood binding them was a secret kept in shadows. This revelation reshapes the narrative, casting doubt on every decision, every alliance. Betrayal feels personal and profound. How could trust be so misplaced? The sibling, once a symbol of unity, now embodies deception. The young woman stands stunned, grappling with the weight of family and business colliding in violent dissonance. The empire they built together now feels fragile, brittle. The cost of ambition is revealed to be far higher than she imagined. It is not just a business at risk, but the very fabric of family, identity, and trust unraveling before her eyes. The betrayal deepens when another trusted figure surfaces as a thief in the shadows, the mentor who once guided her steps now revealed to have stolen from the company. The betrayal cuts deeper than business. It is a wound to the soul. She had looked up to this mentor, saw him as a pillar of strength and wisdom. Now, the betrayal unravels years of loyalty and trust. Internal investigations expose embezzlement and deception that threaten to undo the empire brick by brick. The young woman's world tilts further. She is forced to confront the painful reality that even those closest can turn adversaries. The cost of success becomes painfully clear, not just money lost but faith shattered. She steels herself against the crushing weight of betrayal, knowing that every move from here on will decide the fate of all she has fought for. The empire trembles on the edge of collapse. Meanwhile, the young man faces his own private battle, a diagnosis he cannot share. The cancer that has silently invaded his body is a secret he guards fiercely from his team. Each day is a struggle between maintaining the facade of strength and confronting his mortality alone. He refuses to show weakness, fearing it will unravel the empire he has built. His world becomes a balancing act of secrecy, pain, and duty. The weight of the disease presses on him, threatening to break through his carefully constructed armor. The battle is internal and invisible, but no less fierce. As he hides his declining health, the empire's walls tremble under pressure from within and without. His fight is no longer just for power, but for survival itself. Silent, desperate, and unyielding. The empire's facade begins to crack visibly. Rumors and whispers ripple through the corridors. Employees murmur about the betrayal and illness that threaten to topple the dynasty. The young woman, once a symbol of unshakable power, now wrestles with doubt and despair. Meetings grow tense, trust frays. Financial reports show troubling signs. The empire that once promised security now teeters on the brink of collapse. The young man's health falters, though he hides it well, and the strain shows on his face during critical negotiations. The weight of truth and mortality bear down relentlessly on both of them. The empire's rise has come at a crushing price. And now, as the cracks deepen, the question hangs heavy in the air. Can it survive what's to come? A sudden phone call shatters what little stability remains. A whistleblower's revelation exposes the full extent of the mentor's embezzlement, and the siblings' true intentions come to light. The empire that was once a symbol of triumph now feels like a house of cards. The young woman and man face a brutal reckoning. The public fallout is immediate, sending shockwaves through the market and the media. Friends turn to strangers, allies become enemies. Everything they believed in is questioned. Yet amid the chaos, they find an unexpected clarity, a moment to confront not just the empire's collapse, but their own limits. The question is no longer how to protect their power, but how to survive the storm. The reveal has pulled the floor from beneath them, and the future is uncertain. But they know one thing for sure: nothing will ever be the same. The boardroom is electric with tension, a room packed with powerful executives and anxious shareholders. The final vote is moments away, one that will either preserve or shatter the empire. The young woman stands at the head of the table, her gaze steady but heavy with the weight of every decision she's made. Every eye is fixed on her. Silence fills the room like a heavy fog. This is the moment where everything changes. The betrayal, the illness, the sacrifices, all come to a head. The boardroom feels like a battlefield, where words cut sharper than any sword. Allies become opponents, past alliances fray under pressure. The young woman's voice breaks through the tension, calm yet resolute, as she presents her vision for redemption and recovery. But the stakes are immense. One wrong move could end the empire. Her heart pounds, but she masks it beneath layers of strength. This vote isn't just about the company. It's about legacy, survival, and what kind of future they want to build. The air is thick with anticipation as the first vote is cast. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours as the votes are counted. The room is silent, except for the soft tapping of fingers and the occasional murmur. The young man, seated to the side, watches with a mix of hope and dread. His own health weighs heavily on his mind, but here, it's the empire's fate that dominates. The CEO's speech lingers in the air, stirring something unexpected. A glimmer of belief that they can survive this storm. The tension is palpable, every vote a lifeline or a noose. Allies glance at one another, gauging loyalties. The betrayal still stings, but there is a chance for redemption. The young woman's eyes scan the room, silently counting the seconds and the votes. She clenches her fists under the table, a quiet prayer on her lips. This is the ultimate test of all she has sacrificed, a moment that will define her career and the future of everything she holds dear. The young woman rises once more, ready to address the room again. This time, her voice carries not just strength but vulnerability, a rare glimpse into the personal toll of leadership. She speaks of sacrifice, regret, and the unyielding hope that drives her forward. Her words resonate deeply, cutting through the corporate armor. She offers an apology, not for the ambition that built the empire, but for the collateral damage it caused. The room softens, the board members' faces revealing cracks of empathy and doubt. It's a moment of reckoning where power meets humanity. She acknowledges the losses, the broken trust, and pledges to rebuild with integrity. This speech is her final stand, a last chance to rally the fractured team and salvage what remains. The tension shifts, a fragile hope flickering amidst the storm. In a rare moment away from the public eye, the young man and woman share a silent embrace. The weight of the empire, the betrayals, and their personal battles converge in this quiet connection. There are no words, only the comfort of being understood. For a moment, the world's chaos fades, replaced by a fragile peace. They cling to each other, knowing the fight isn't over but finding strength in their bond. This embrace symbolizes more than love. It is a lifeline, a promise to face the uncertain future together. The empire may be on the brink, but in this moment they are unbreakable. It is the calm before the storm's inevitable climax, a brief sanctuary where hope still lives. The final moments before the vote's result arrive feel suspended in time. The room waits with bated breath. The young woman stands tall, a pillar of strength despite the exhaustion that threatens to consume her. The chairman's voice breaks the silence, announcing the decision that will change everything. The vote is unanimous. The empire will survive, but at a cost none can ignore. Relief floods the room, but the young woman knows this victory is only the beginning. The scars of betrayal and sacrifice remain, a reminder of the price paid. She looks out the window, the city alive below, reflecting on all that has been lost and all that still lies ahead. The empire endures, but so does the hard truth. Nothing worth fighting for ever comes without sacrifice. The story's climax is not an ending but a turning point, where power, love, and resilience intersect to shape what comes next. The young woman walks away from the empire she built, the weight of power lifted but replaced by a profound emptiness. She steps out of the towering skyscraper, the city bustling around her unaware of her departure. The streets feel both familiar and foreign, as if the world has moved on without her. The legacy she fought to protect is intact, but it no longer defines her. Her reflection in a shop window shows a woman changed, wiser, quieter, yet resolute. She carries scars invisible to others, reminders of battles won and lost. The empire was her dream, and her prison. Leaving it behind is both liberation and loss. The journey forward is uncertain but necessary. She breathes deeply, stepping into the unknown, ready to find herself beyond the boardroom's glare. This is the painful price of sacrifice. The peace found only after surrendering what once seemed everything. The young man, once consumed by power and success, now confronts what truly matters. His empire stands, but he is no longer the man who built it alone. In quiet moments, he reflects on what his ambition cost: lost time with family, friendship sacrificed, and his own health fading. The battle with illness has reshaped his priorities. Money and power seem hollow without connection and love. He spends evenings watching old home videos and reading letters he never replied to. The empire is secure, but his heart seeks a different kind of legacy, one rooted in healing and forgiveness. The journey ahead is one of reconciliation, not conquest. The man who once thought power was everything now understands the deeper value of presence and grace. The empire remains, but his soul is searching for peace. The daughter, once sidelined by power struggles, now stands fully herself. She has relinquished titles and ambition for freedom and self-discovery. Her journey has been one of painful growth, letting go of expectations and embracing uncertainty. In quiet solitude, she finds clarity and strength. Her laughter returns, unburdened by legacy or obligation. She travels, explores passions once denied, reconnects with old friends, and rebuilds fractured relationships. The power she sought was not in control, but in authenticity. Though the past lingers, it no longer defines her. She becomes a beacon of resilience, a testament that true success is found in peace and self-acceptance. Her future is unwritten, but it is hers to shape, free, whole, and true. The empire that once seemed invincible now rests on the sacrifices of those who built it. The young woman and man's journeys reveal that legacy is not measured in buildings or money, but in the lives touched and changed. The empire survives, but it is reshaped, less about conquest, more about stewardship and heart. They both have changed profoundly, carrying scars as reminders of their trials. Their story becomes a quiet legend, whispered among those who knew the price of power. The city continues its endless rhythm, the skyscrapers standing tall but softer somehow, reflections of lives transformed by struggle and redemption. This is the aftermath, the balance between what was lost and what was gained. It is neither victory nor defeat, but a complex truth held in the hearts of those who dared to dream and pay the cost. The world moves on, but the story lingers, a quiet echo of love, loss, and the relentless pursuit of meaning. The young woman and man have both found new paths, shaped by what they endured. The empire stands as a testament to their ambition and sacrifice, but more importantly, to their humanity. Theirs is a legacy not of perfection but of courage, the courage to face failure, to forgive, and to begin again. As the city wakes beneath the dawn, they each take their first steps into the next chapter, carrying lessons written in scars and hope. The story closes on a note of bittersweet grace, a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories are the ones that come after the fall. In the quiet moments that follow, there is peace. And in peace, the promise of tomorrow. The young woman stands alone before a large mirror in her modest apartment, the soft glow of city lights filtering through the window. Her eyes meet her reflection, searching for the person she once was and the woman she has become. The mirror does not lie. It reflects a survivor, scarred but strong. Outside, fireworks erupt in the night sky, brilliant bursts of color that illuminate the darkness, an echo of chaos and celebration intertwined. The woman breathes deeply, letting the silence settle around her. It is a moment of reckoning and renewal. The city's heartbeat pulses beneath the glass, distant yet persistent. She whispers to herself, "I am still here." The empire is no longer her burden but a chapter in a longer story. Her journey continues beyond the glass, beyond the past. In this quiet moment, she embraces the unknown, ready for whatever comes next. A child's small hand reaches up toward an empty boardroom chair, the same one once occupied by the young woman. The hand trembles slightly, a symbol of hope and the promise of legacy carried forward. The child's innocence contrasts with the weight of the room, a room that has witnessed power struggles, heartbreak, and triumphs. The chair stands tall, bathed in the soft glow of early morning light filtering through tall windows. Though the empire has weathered storms, new beginnings are quietly unfolding. The child's gesture speaks of continuity, of stories yet to be written. It is a silent passing of the torch, a reminder that every empire is ultimately about people and the lives touched along the way. The future is uncertain, but in that small hand lies the possibility of something greater. Silence reigns as the young woman gazes into the empty boardroom, Memories of battles fought and alliances forged echoing softly. The city hums outside, oblivious to the empire's fragile peace. She knows the path ahead is still uncertain, fraught with challenges and hard choices. But the fear that once gripped her heart has loosened its hold. There is strength in vulnerability and power in letting go. The empire is no longer just a fortress of ambition, but a place where hope can take root. Her reflection in the glass shows a woman transformed, not by wealth or titles, but by courage and resilience. The room waits, empty but full of potential. And in that waiting, there is promise. The story is far from over. It is a new beginning, written not in shadows but light. The young woman's silhouette stands against the vast city skyline, a quiet figure against the sprawling metropolis. Her journey has been marked by ambition, loss, betrayal, and love. Now, she embraces the lessons etched into her soul, ready to face whatever comes next. The night air carries a sense of possibility, a whisper of hope that even in darkness light persists. The empire's shadows no longer weigh her down. Instead, they illuminate the path she has carved for herself. Behind her, the city pulses with life, a living testament to resilience and change. She breathes in deeply, the future unknown, but hers to shape. The story's final act is not an end, but a continuation of the dance between power and grace. As the city breathes beneath her, the young woman turns away from the skyline and walks forward into the unknown. Her steps are steady, filled with the quiet confidence of someone who has faced storms and emerged whole. The empire she once ruled remains behind her, a testament to the battles fought and won. But it is no longer her identity. She carries with her not just memories, but wisdom and hope, a legacy beyond power and prestige. The night air is cool, filled with possibility. Her story, like the city below, is alive and ever-changing. With each step forward, she embraces the truth that love, loss, and resilience are intertwined. The future awaits, and she is ready to meet it, stronger, freer, and unafraid. The journey continues, and this is only the beginning.